And we are recording and streaming. Mister, I probably should ask you beforehand how to pronounce it. Tevi or Tevi Troy?
Heavy rhymes with heavy.
All right, beautiful. On Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 10:01 a.m. Eastern Time. Would you, sir, please introduce yourself while I post around the live link?
Sure. I'm Tevi Troy. I am a presidential historian and former senior White House aide. I've written 5 books on the presidency, including my latest, The Power and the Money: Epic Clashes Between Captains of Industry and Commanders in Chief. So it's a book about CEOs and presidents, and it's a terrific read and has a lot of relevance to what's going on today.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And as I was just telling Mr. Troy beforehand, I haven't read the book because anyone that watches this podcast knows it's been nauseatingly about the election nonstop, and it is finally over. And so I am going to have you back on where I read the book and we actually have an awesome discussion about it. But nonetheless, we can just kind of wing it now. So just in general, I guess you could say, at least in my short life, I'm 34. This kind of seems to have, and it could just be that I'm plugged in. It could be, confirmation bias. This one seems to have more of the big players out in the open. I mean, there's always, money behind it, going back to the Dulles brothers and the kind of the orchestration of the intelligence agency as a clearinghouse for, the hybrid or possibly illegal mixing of money, business intelligence, and military. First Medley Butler, per Dwight D. Eisenhower. But this one seems to be, and I don't know if it's good or bad, more mask off. You see kind of Mark Cuban, I'm behind Kamala. You have Zuckerberg that seems to be more of a I'm doing the middle thing. Bezos pulled the endorsement from WAPO, but didn't endorse Trump. Kind of more middle ground. Obviously, you see somebody like Tim Cook of Apple coming out and doing kind of your predictable, you know, congratulations, Mr. or Mrs. President. But then you have kind of the bigger ones like an Elon Musk coming out behind Trump, or not quite a CEO, but a mover and shaker nonetheless in the form of Joe Rogan. Is this unique in that we're seeing it more? Because it's always been there. Is it unique in that we're seeing it more? Or is this just me getting older and seeing something that's really been out in the open? It's like getting older and being like, man, bills suck. And it's like, yeah, dude, welcome to Earth. Like, is it that it's new, or is it that I'm just seeing it?
I think there's two things going on. I think you're right to see both sides of this. First of all, CEOs have always been involved in politics. That's what my book, The Power of the Money, is about. That dating back to John D. Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and Henry Ford and Henry Lewis. I mean, all these guys have had involvement in politics. They knew presidents, so that's not new. But in this particular election, the kind of establishment mainstream safe spot, I guess, was to go with Kamala Harris. And the people who went with Trump were more rogue, I guess, were willing to flout the conventional wisdom, were willing to side with the disruptors. And so I think those people kind of have a gene where they're willing to be out there more and they're willing to make more noise. What Elon Musk did in backing Trump, I would argue, was very unconventional because there's a lot of risks for a CEO taking that strong a position on one particular candidate. If he loses, who knows what she could do with the entire apparatus of the regulatory state against him. Even if he wins, you could have backlash and people not being happy with this person and saying, I'm not going to buy a Tesla or I'm not going to go on Twitter/X. So there's risk for CEOs. Most CEOs don't want to take on that risk. Elon Musk, however, is different. In fact, he went on Saturday Night Live and he said, I'm Elon Musk. I reinvented the electric car and I'm sending people to space through my space company. Did you think I was going to be a normal, chill dude? He takes a different approach to things.
It is, yeah, it is interesting. And I try more and more to not give into my own biases and my own confirmations because I voted for Trump, and I've voted both left and right. I voted for Obama and then Romney, and then I voted for Bernie, but didn't vote in the 2016 the presidential election, and then I voted for Trump in 2020, and I voted for Trump in 2024. I try to,
We can have a podcast just on that. On
yeah,
those,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
all over the map. I love it.
Well, because I genuinely try to be like, what do I believe? Not how I was raised, not what do I believe in the here and now. And in 2028, who knows? I have no idea. But to me, that's fun and exciting. So I try not to go, oh, we won. I try not to say, oh, the good guys. I try to be a little more realistic and be like, what is really behind it? Because it is a huge risk, and you have to wonder. Is it that risk taking that gets you to that rarefied air of centibillionaire? I mean, there's only so centibillionaire is the new billionaire. It's you're at the apex. Is it that risk that gets you there? Or or is it that once you reach 100, 200, 300 billion, I don't think it is. I think they both legitimately have passion, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk for space. There's a great book called Space Barons by Christian Davenport. Kind of Musk wants to be the Christopher Columbus. Bezos wants to be more of like the Carnegie slash Eisenhower or the Carnegie Industries slash Eisenhower highway system, and that he wants to build his passion is for whatever reason the infrastructure in space. They both have been pursuing it. Bezos' grandfather, I believe, was in DARPA. He used a lot of his money to go pull up one of the F1 engines from the Saturn V. So I think they both have legitimate interests in space exploration. But I think there's also probably something that when you get so many zeros in the bank account, money's only so much before you want the next thing, which is power. But then even then, once you have that much, I mean, Elon has all these DoD contracts, Bezos, AWS has all of these intelligence contracts. So it seems like not only have they gone past the money, they're also kind of getting bored with the power. Is it now legacy? Do they want that? Is that what they're just, they're just taking 100 chips and putting it forward, and it's like they just want to feel something, right? I mean, I'm 34. If I got a nice car, I'd be like, this is the coolest thing ever. These guys can buy nice car companies and not even feel it. Is it legacy now? So it's a long-winded way of saying, is it
Yep.
just risk? Is the risk what gets them there? Or does Elon really believe what he's saying in that he thinks it's a civilizational divide and he thinks we should go to space? And his hypothesis is that if Trump didn't win, we'd see a gradual degradation of the US economy and regulatory state to where space exploration, at least American space exploration, wouldn't be possible. I know that was an absolute tidal wave of sentences, but is it somewhere in between? Is it a mixture of all of them? Not that you have the crystal ball.
Well, as a historian, I don't need a crystal ball. I just need to look in the past and tell you what happened there. So I love that question. There's so much in it. First of all, my book is called The Power and the Money. So these guys
Yeah,
do want
yeah.
the power and they do want the money. And it's hard to get both. And I think these people have attained, and certainly Musk, after the big victory this week, is feeling both power and money. But they are motivated by something different. It's something different that gets them to where they are. I remember reading an article in the New York Times about a hedge fund guy who was worth $34 million. And this was a while ago when $34 million was, I guess, a lot. I mean, it's still a lot to you and me, but to these kind of guys. And the New York Times reporter said to him, wow, if I had $34 million, I wouldn't be working anymore. And he looked at her and he said, that's why you'll never make $34 million. So it is the rush, it is the need to keep score, it is the drive to show that you're winning, that you're getting stuff done, that is one of the motivators. The other thing is with both people like Musk and Bezos, I think they really do want to reshape society in a way that they think is beneficial. You may agree with their vision, you may disagree with their vision, but they have enough money and enough power that they can try and shape the direction of society. And I think that's another type of rush, and it's another type of legacy.
It's almost an extrapolation of the idea of the mandate, right? That if you barely win the electoral college or popular, it's like you still gotta you're either looking at you're either looking at reelection or just in general, you're like, we kind of barely won. Versus when you have something like Trump's or bigger, like I guess like a Reagan, where you kind of do demolish the election, you do have the mandate to kind of real or not, agreed or not, supported or not, you do feel you have a mandate to kind of impose your will, impose your vision. And I'm saying this as a Trump supporter, but to impose your will and vision on the world. I wonder, this is more of an open-ended idea more than a question. I wonder if once you get to 100 billion, well, yeah, number one, it's I'd retire if I had it. It's like that's why you'll never have it. Is like when my podcast, not
Yeah,
if,
sorry.
yeah, yeah, when my podcast, I mean, I got into medical school out of college. I taught myself graphic design after that. I'm doing this, and I mean, the most boring day of my life was the day I got into medical school. I was like, I won, shit. Like now, it's now what? When this podcast blows up, right? I mean, I have my other business ideas. I'll never stop, and it's one, I'm a hard worker. I'm also obsessive compulsive, whatever. I wonder when, other than just having to drive. I wonder if there's sort of a financial mandate, no matter how earned or not. You could go the far kind of Marxist side and say that no one earns it, and the other side of he pulled himself up by his bootstraps. I wonder if once you make 100 billion, you start to go, I made this. This is proof that my ideas are good. I have an not only a right but a duty to reshape the world in the way I see fit, almost like a corporate takeover. I'm taking over this company, consolidating it and restructuring it. Now is it ethical? Is it moral? I have no idea. I wonder if that's what goes on. It's not that you made 100,000. You make 100 billion, you go, I quantitatively do know what's best.
Yeah.
It's a sticky question. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, look, in my book, The Power of the Money, I look at 18 different CEOs, all big name CEOs. Not all of them are 100 billionaires, although Musk obviously is in the book and he's one. But they all were financially quite comfortable. They all made a lot of money doing what they do, and they were motivated not just by getting dollars for them. Sometimes they wanted to make the most money for their shareholders, like Jack Welch at GE. He wanted to have a really well-run company, and he loved shareholder value. That was the thing that drove him. Sometimes you have media magnets like Rupert Murdoch, who they think there's a perspective that's not shown in the American media, and they wanted to get that different alternative perspective out there. So different people are motivated by different things. I love your story about how you got into medical school and your graphic design and you got podcasting, your most boring days. I mean, look, I also am motivated by different things. Money is not my prime motivator. I love to write and to get my ideas out there and to be a thinker who tries to help frame the way people look at American politics and the presidency and American elections. So different people have different motivations, but that doesn't mean that when you reach a certain thing, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to stop. That's it. I'm good. I'm going to sit in my rocking chair for now. Sometimes you've got a Joe Biden and maybe it's time to do that. But in
Sure.
general, as long as you're a driven person and you've got the capability, you're just going to keep driving and getting stuff done. I'm not going to retire from doing what I do. I may not I may not take on some of the projects that I take on now once I reach a certain, I guess, level of income or comfort, but I'm constantly going to be out there. Just this morning, I wrote a piece on the election that was #1 on the Real Clear Politics today. And I said, great. And you know what? I'm going to keep doing that. Next election, I'm going to do it again because that's what I like to do. And so I think it's important to recognize that we are a fascinating species. Everybody's got different motivations. Everyone's got different approaches, but they all have a drive to matter and they all try and matter in different ways. I hope that answered your
No,
question.
no, it does, and it's also important to understand these players. And I remember seeing this funny clip of I don't really follow any sports, but it was an NBA clip, and some guy who at some point played with LeBron James in the NBA. And so you're already in the NBA. You're already. It's not like he's just some random guy. You're already like this is your life's passion. It's a starter in the NBA, and I can't remember his name for the life of me. And he's going, yeah, he was playing with LeBron. He goes, it's just crazy. Like how so? And they're like, we had a game, regular season game, middle. Let's just say they're on the Heat and they're playing the Celtics. He's like, we're playing the Celtics in, in April. And he's like, all right. And he's like, so their new assistant power forward coach 18 years ago did a summer dribbling course at Georgetown, which I participated in. So I know for a fact that he was heavily influenced by these two coaches back from the 60s. So I think in today's game, we're going to see to a degree an influence of that more, I don't know, zone defense with a hybrid offense. So if at any point you start to see their shooting percentage go down, you got to really cover you got to cover the two corners, less so the center. And the guy's looking at him going, "What? Like, where'd you read that?" And he's like, "No, I remember this." And he's like, "All right." He goes, "So we're in the game," and at some point, I just see this look in LeBron's eye, and he goes, "Cut, run," and just throws it, gets it back behind the back, and goes. And then I got the ball, and next thing I realized there was no one around me. I was under the hoop. I was like, "How did you do that?" And it wasn't even a championship game.
Yeah.
You have to understand. I guarantee you go talk to a Musk or a Bezos. You and I are probably like, that was a crazy election. And they're probably like, did you know that Carnegie had a large influence in libraries? And Trump is also from the near geographical area. So if you look at this and the way I think that's probably how, and they influence, it's not a court. The court is the world. They're influencing our world. You have to understand that. I mean, obviously, I haven't read the book yet, but I would imagine that's probably the value in the book is like, these aren't just fictional characters or kings from 10,000 years ago. These are the current, global oligarchs that you have to understand, for better or worse, how they, because if you don't, you're you're situationally awarenessly, if that's not a word, illiterate. You have to know it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that because when I wrote the book, I was thinking I'm writing a guidebook for CEOs for how to deal with power and how they can deal effectively with American presidents. But then after the election, I reread the last 100 pages of the book, which are about the Trump era. And I said, I didn't write a guidebook for how to deal, all CEOs can deal with all presidents. These last 100 pages of the book are a guidebook for how current CEOs can deal with the incoming president of the United States. It's specifically addressed to what you can do, what worked with Trump and what didn't work with Trump in the last term. And that way, I think those last 100 pages are absolutely invaluable. And I think every CEO, probably every citizen, should read it. So go power in the money.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And it's yeah, and for everybody listening, the link to that's in the description. Yeah, it is kind of funny when you see people are like, I cannot believe Jeff Bezos just congratulated Donald Trump. I can't believe Mark Cuban conceded and went, hey, fair election, you guys won, let the better man win. I can't believe Tim Cook from Apple did this. And it's like, it's kind of the 34 million thing because that's why you'll never be the CEO of a $1 trillion
Really like
multinational
that story.
trans-global corporation. What do you mean? Because they have their ideologies, but they don't let the money get angry or emotional. They put on the face, they go, I'm the CEO of Apple. You got to you are, for all intents and purposes, you are a head of state. You run Apple, you run Tesla, you run GE, Northrop Grumman,
Yeah.
Walmart. Like, you have to put on the mask and go, Madam President, Mr. President, You have to. You
Yeah,
have to.
I'll tell you a great story from the power of the money.
Yeah.
So all the tech CEOs hate Trump back in 2016, and it was almost obligatory to be denouncing him in Silicon Valley because that's what the staffs wanted and the HR departments wanted. But Tim Cook said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And he would call Trump regularly. And Trump is, for whatever you think about it, he's one of the most accessible presidents ever. You can pick up the phone and call him on his cell phone, and he will answer it and he will talk to you. If obviously if you have the number and you're
Yeah.
working all that. And so Trump gives this interview where he says, Tim Cook calls me. A lot of these other guys, they just hire expensive consultants, but Tim Cook calls me on the phone. And Trump appreciated that. And I think that was a really smart thing that Cook did and an important lesson. Reaching out and talking to this guy, maybe that's not the way you did it in the Jimmy Carter or Bill Clinton administration or the George Bush administration. But with this, Trump wants you to call him and have the direct conversation. And I think that's worth looking at.
It absolutely, and it does make me. I mean, my podcast is almost 5 years old now, and it's coming up on like 50,000 subscribers. It's grown
Right.
considerably, but when it started, I mean, I think this year it's almost gotten 10 million downloads this year. The first year, I think it maybe got 1,000, and it's bad. But it took time to grow. But early on, when I would get huge guests, I mean, Mike Durant, the Black Hawk Down pilot, Charlie Duke, who walked on the moon, up to more recently, General Flynn, Mike Lindell from My Pillow, Roseanne Barr. When I would get on these guys, people would go, "How did you get in touch with them?" And I go, "I emailed them."
Yeah.
What are you talking about? How did I get in touch with them? I emailed them and said, "Wait, this is how old I am. This is who I am, and I'd love to have you on and talk about." And then when they do show up, and now this is a bad case because, like I just said, I ran up from the gym and didn't have time to shower. Always put on a nice shirt, take a shower, shave, and yes sir, no ma'am, and be as respectable as you can. And that's how you get them. There really is no rocket science to it. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
saw
even,
it. You
yeah,
did that with me this morning. You just emailed me and I said, okay, here's where I can fit you in. I'd love to do it. And
yeah, yeah.
there
And
was no
it's
big process or anything. You just did it.
why doesn't it, why, or not why doesn't it, why wouldn't that apply at a greater level? It's like, what is it, scale independent fractals? There are some things like water, it behaves differently. A little bit of water on your table, you get surface cohesion. Water in a puddle kind of flows. In an ocean, you get tides, bigger and bigger. It starts to behave differently. That's scale dependent. They're scale independent fractals, like a grid. 10 by 10, what, nanometers? 10 by 10 light years. Still square. I think stuff like that probably is scale independent. Now, again, probably should have put on a nicer shirt. Probably shouldn't have, said bullshit or whatever. But for the most part, it is scale independent. And I don't, and again, but I think it answers its own question. The people criticizing them will never be a transnational CEO. The CEO probably doesn't listen to those people criticizing him because it's gotten them to that point. It's
Yeah.
they have their own mandate from their own life experiences, right? So yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? And of course that would then apply to world leaders. Like, I can't believe he met with Kim Jong Un. Well, we already decided in 1950 under Truman that we weren't going to nuke North Korea. So it's like what Alan Watts said. There's only one philosophical question. I know I got to let you go in a minute, so we'll wrap it up. But as Alan Watts said, there's only one philosophical question. Are you going to kill yourself or not? And well, are you going to check out from this reality or do you want to keep living? Well, I think I'm going to keep living. And then from there, you have all the other questions. But that's it. It comes North Korea, 1950 Truman, they invaded South Korea. Are we going to nuke them or not? MacArthur wanted to. Truman said no. Okay, so we've agreed we're not going to nuke them. And then after the Korean War, we also decided we are going to withdraw forces. So if you're not going to eradicate them, you then have to go, we have to deal with them. No president met with him, not one. And it's not that America's only recently strong. Any president could have rolled up to North Korea with a couple aircraft carriers as his bodyguards and gone and met with them. And people hate that Trump met with them. Is it right that Trump came out? I thought it was funny. Is it right that he came out after there and said, in that country, people respect him? That's probably not a great look, but you do have to at the very least go. Because if the answer is we're never going to meet with them, then nuke them and be finished with it. But if you're not going to do that, you have to meet with them. They are on the global cul-de-sac. You have to meet with them. So I don't know. I don't really know. I don't think there's even a question in there. It's just kind of ranting.
No, I think there is. So first of all, I love the Alan Watt thing, right? The
Yeah.
question, do you kill yourself or do you keep going? The answer is you keep going. You always keep going, and you've got to be relentless about it. And there's no giving up. And I know a lot of people aren't happy with the election results. I've been on winning election teams and on losing election teams, and it's a heck of a lot better to win. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it's a shit feeling to lose. I get it.
But you keep going. I remember, you said you voted for Romney. I appreciate that because I worked on the Romney campaign in 2012. And you know what happened? Romney lost that election to Obama. It was painful. And you know what
Yeah.
I did the next day? I got up and I went to work. Right? There's
Yeah.
no tearing my garments or crying circles or anything like that. You just go and you
Yeah.
keep doing the work. And I think that's the way you proceed. And it's just a great way to go about life. And look, these CEOs I talk about in The Power of the Money, they all had setbacks.
Of course.
Stop what they're doing. They keep going. Bezos, how many of his business ideas have failed? Tons of them. But nobody thought that Amazon Prime was going to work, and it's a huge driver for the company.
Not only did Elon Musk's rockets crash, but before that, his heroes from the Apollo programs openly said that Elon's a nut. There's a video of Elon being told this, and you see his eyes welling up. It's not just that it's not just that like my podcast didn't grow as much as I wanted to. It's Joe Rogan going, "That's the worst podcast I've ever seen." No, I've heard of him. That man is legitimately stupid. Whoa, you got to wake up the next day and go at it. And I get it, man. It's not fun. And I don't, the memes are great, but I'm not rubbing it in anyone's face. I have friends and family members who are liberal. I'm not, hey, screw it. I'm not saying anything. I get it. It's not a fun feeling, man. Like, I get it. It sucks. It sucks to be running your mouth and then and then you come to on the pavement looking up around all your friends going, dude, that guy threw a haymaker. Yeah, man, you kind of go, all right. You wake up the next day drunk with a black eye and you go, noted,
Yeah.
moving forward. It's not
Keep going.
fun, man. I get it. But yeah, I said I'll let you go at 10:25, so we will do that. I text you. I will text you. We'll schedule the next one. I'll have the book read, and hopefully we can do like an hour or something and just kind of
I love
do
this
a deep
conversation.
dive.
I'm happy to go on with you anytime. This is
Absolutely, man. That was awesome. That was 25 minutes, but it was perfect. I appreciate it, dude. So guys, go in the description, go grab a book. The link is in the description. And thank you so much. I'll text this to you. We'll schedule the next one. And thank you for your time, sir.
all right. Thanks.
Guys, thank you.